Hey everybody, it's Nadiah from LeArmoire.etsy.com, and today I'm going to be re-dyeing this bright orange yarn. It really is a beautiful shade of orange, but I want to make something that's really wearable and practical for everyday use, and I really just don't like wearing bright orange. So I'm excited to see how it turns out. I'm going to be dyeing it sort of a tannish color, and like a sandy camel type color. And to do that, I'm going to use color remover and this fantastic tan dye. I love the color. I'm really excited to get started and see how it works out. First up is the color remover. It's RIT and it's pretty safe for all types of fabric and fiber. And next up is this awesome tan RIT dye, and I can't wait to totally change the color. I'm using a Pima cotton and silk blend, and we're going to want to take all the labels off to get started. The yarn should absorb dye pretty well because it's cotton and silk. Usually fibers like acrylic don't work as well, or may not work at all even, just because they get kind of melty when you heat them up and everything. So to use natural fibers is always the best thing. And now you want to unwind the hanks, but leave them tied, because you don't want just a big mess of yarn in the pot, so it's important to leave them tied. So now you've got all these lovely hanks of yarn that are all loose but tied together, because you want to leave them tied, but it should work great. I'm using a porcelain enamel pot because basically the directions said that porcelain enamel pots are good for this. So putting the yarn in the pot, the stove is not on, it's not over any heat or anything, and you just want to get them in sort of piled in the pot. The next step is filling the pot with enough water to cover the yarn. I'm just getting the yarn wet, and then I'm going to take it out and put it in a separate bowl, and then heat the water up. But I'm doing this to get a good measure of how much water needs to be in the pot. So I basically know how much water needs to be in there now, and then I'm going to take it out and put it in a separate bowl, and that is the water that I'm left with. And I turn that on about medium-high and let it come to a simmer, not a boil. The next step is to add the bleach. You're going to want to work in a well-ventilated area. You can open windows or turn on your stove fan. And you just add the bleach, the color remover, and stir it kinda till it dissolves. You don't want granules to be in there, but try not to breathe in the fumes. Again, a ventilated area works best. Next up is the fun part, adding the yarn, and pretty much the second it hits the water, the color disappears. It's really amazing. It was really fun to see. So in goes the yarn, and the color disappears, and it's already turning way lighter. You want to make sure the water covers the yarn, and if you need to add more water, you can. And you want to keep it moving to make sure that the color is being removed evenly and you don't have blotches of orange. So it's important to keep it going and keep it moving and do not boil it. So now I've got this fantastic sunshiny yellow color, which is pretty, and I really like it, but I'm going to keep going and make sure that it's tan. And I'm going to keep it kind of yellow when I put the tan in. I don't think I want it to be totally white. I want to keep it kind of yellow because I want it to be a sort of goldeny straw color and not just plain regular tan, straightforward brown. So I'm pretty excited. The next step is to drain the water out. So when you're rinsing your fiber, you're going to want to make sure that the water is hot at first, just hot tap water, and then gradually make it cooler and not quite cold, but in the end you want it to be lukewarm. And just keep rinsing to make sure all the bleach is gone, because you don't want the color remover to continue to have effects on your yarn as you're dyeing it, whatever color you're going to be dyeing it. So now you have what looks to be a huge tangled mass of yarn, basically, and it looks kind of intimidating, but the hanks should separate evenly and easily. Now I'm basically getting rid of any extra water and just setting each one aside and getting it ready to dye tan. So here's the fiber. It's still kind of yellowish, and I'm just going to put it in a bowl and set it aside so I can get the dye heating up. You should follow the directions on the package to see how much fiber you're going to be dyeing. The amount of fiber definitely plays into how much dye you need and how much water needs to be in the pot, but I have mine about a fourth full of water, and I just added 1 pack of dye to it. Now the fun part again, adding the fiber to the dye. The best part is watching the colors evolve and change as you dye. Again, it's important to keep the fiber moving continuously so that it all dyes evenly and continuously. You don't want certain spots that are like way super brown and other spots that just sort of stayed yellow. You want to make sure all the fiber is making contact with the dye evenly. This is a really great project if you have some yarn in your stash that you really, really love, but you kind of hate the color, or you like the color, it just doesn't fit in with what you want to do with the fiber. So that's my case here. I love orange, just not for what I want to do with this fiber, and so I'm dyeing it. You should know how long your fiber should be on the stove from the package. It should tell you how many packets you need and how long it needs to be on the stove to let the dye set properly. So here's the fiber. I just hung it in the shower to dry, and it kind of looks like it lost its softness and its sheen, but it really didn't. It's just kind of damp from the stove and everything, but it definitely bounces back when it dries. And here's the finished fiber. It's the perfect color. It's the exact color that I wanted, and I'm really super happy with it. So if any of you watching Indy 5 try this, we'd love to see video responses or text comments about how your project turns out. Thanks for watching.